How you doing, everybody? This is Jonathan, owner of BFF Bootcamp, and if you're watching this video, it is because you recently participated in the 2012 Warrior Dash in Morristown, New Jersey. You may be part of my boot camp, or you may be somebody that's just a little bit nervous about doing the Warrior Dash. So I decided to make a documentary, just introducing you to some of the people that did it with me, the average, ordinary people. It will take you through the entire race, and hopefully it will allay some of your concerns. So, enough about me, let's get on to the experience.
So our day started off by 80% of us meeting at our location. We're going to get to meet some of the boot campers now. This is our tech guy, Hen. Without him, none of this video recording would even be possible. He works in communication, will actually be on site for the PGA Championships in South Carolina, and boot camp with me for a full year. To his left is one of Bloomfield's bravest, firefighter Brian the Beast Shepherd, who can actually take credit for this mud run craze, as he started doing it even before I did, and that inspired me to start this for the group. Now, as you can see, I'm walking through the lobby, making sure everything works, everybody's working on their shirts, and here we have Deb and Camille, who both are a bit nervous about doing the run, but they've been running a 5K every Sunday with me for the last 5 weeks. I think they'll be perfectly fine. So now let's fast forward to a group shot just before we hit the shuttle bus. As you can see here, we have April and Fernanda. April recently had a baby, lost about 25 pounds afterwards. Fernanda has been with the boot camp for almost a year and has lowered her body fat by 4%, and they are ready to go. So we're actually going to make our way toward the bus. And this is Melissa and Dr. Claire. Melissa is a science teacher and also a mother of a 1-year-old, and Claire is a scientist over at Hoffman LaRoche. Here we have our first married couple, Pat and Jen, who we call the Incredibles. Pat is in the white shorts, Jen is in the glasses, and they work out twice a day, every day, and it's their first time doing the mud run. I can't say enough about the woman holding the camera. Her name is Colleen the Machine, boot camper by morning, lawyer by day, mother by night, one of my first boot campers, and she did an awesome job today with the boot camp. You'll be meeting a lot of her family in a little bit. We have Tracy Nardone. She lost 25 pounds on her own, and she's a middle school teacher in West Orange. She can color coordinate with the best of them and kick your butt in boxing any day of the week. To the right of Tracy, we have Scott with the Raggedy Ann hair. To his right, we have Rich, Colleen's husband, and below them, you have Rich and Colleen's 3 daughters. Here we have another newcomer to the mud run environment, my good friend Veronica, who was a little bit nervous because she hasn't run that much, but she actually did just fine. Here we have our third married couple, Roberto and Denise. Roberto had actually hurt his foot the day before, but he was still able to do the mud run, and Denise has been running 5Ks with us, so she was perfectly ready. The fresh face you see to our left is one half of our fourth married couple, Gloria, aka GT. I unfortunately wasn't able to get her and her husband in the same shot, but you will be meeting Michael later. You would be hard-pressed to find a kinder harder person than Mio Sotis, who is doing this for the first time. She was a little bit nervous, but she shocked herself, not really me though, with how well she did. Next, we have Philip Stern, trainer extraordinaire, who heads up the Pompton Plains location. He couldn't do the race this time because he was in a car accident, but he's totally ready for the next one. Here we have one of Pompton Plains' studs, Kat, who was kind enough to help everyone put face paint on before the race. Here we have our second Tracy, who is also a teacher, who we met up with in Morristown, partner in crime to Mio Sotis, and one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Rounding out our married couples is our fifth and final married couple of Yorka and Daniel. Both of them a great time to have around. First time doing the Warrior Dash. They have no idea what to expect, but they handled it very well. Becky is a thrill seeker. She basically did this on no notice. Basically woke up one morning, said, I'm going to do this Warrior Dash, and absolutely crushed it. Here we have a soon-to-be boot camper, Merv. She hasn't decided if she's going to do Pompton Plains or Nutley, so Philip and I are basically going to have a death match to see who gets to train her. Alright, so we're at the start of the race, and a lot of the race is going to be fast forwarded. As you can see, I have a clock in the upper left, which will let you know how much time that you have to scroll through if you want to skip through the accelerated time, which I essentially multiplied by 12 so that you wouldn't have to watch me take every boring step. One thing that you're going to want to make sure of is that if you are going for time, you want to put yourself as close to the starting line as possible. We spent a lot of time at the facility in Nutley getting our shirts cut up and modifying and making sure that everybody had a ride over there. So we left about 15 minutes later than we should have. Had we gotten here on time, we would have been able to check our bags a lot quicker, and the people that were definitely doing this for time could have gotten into the front. So your first obstacle is going to be the hill, and in my opinion, it was one of the harder obstacles of the entire Warrior Dash race. My best advice is to, if you're going to walk backwards, but with any mud race that I've done, I found that it's best to just sprint up the hill instead of having to burn on every single step. Here's a boot camper that you haven't met yet. This is Mary. I think one of the main reasons why she did the Warrior Dash is because she knew I wouldn't yell at her for having the beer after, but she's lost 15 pounds. She did a great job with this Warrior Dash, and you'll see more of her later. Now the second obstacle is an over and under, which requires you to jump over a piece of wood that's about 5 feet high, immediately followed by a piece of wood that's about 3 feet off of the ground with barbed wire over it. Not really the most challenging obstacle, but definitely get your heart rate up if you're doing the jump. As you can see, I was just about done, and then I turned around and realized that I had Grace behind me, so I guess now is a great time to introduce you to Grace. Breast cancer survivor, mother, welcoming committee, pretty much the heart and soul, I'd say, of the BFF Nutley location. I think there are a lot of people who are doing the Warrior Dash mainly because they knew Grace was there as opposed to me being there. So just watching her being able to finish the race was particularly satisfying for me. Now after the over-under, you found yourself standing in front of an extended army crawl. There was barbed wire, but there wasn't wood underneath between you and the barbed wire. This was not so low that it was uncomfortable. I was essentially able to bear crawl without having to worry about my level being too low, or too high rather, and scraping the barbed wire. It had to be at least 3.5 feet off the ground. So if you're concerned about the barbed wire, in most cases it's so high that you're not going to really even need to worry. What I do think you need to worry about, however, is taping your sneakers down. I had actually advised my boot campers that they didn't need to, but this was some of the deepest mud that I've ever encountered. A lot of people were losing shoes, so tape your sneakers down just to be on the safe side. This is another army crawl. This time you're in mud. The barbed wire is a little bit low, but I didn't see anybody having any problems getting under it. So you just want to bear crawl as opposed to crawling on your knees, so you don't cut yourself like I did, which is why I'm with a medic right now getting my hand taped as I'm looking at the next obstacle, which is the first of 2 walls that every single one of my boot campers was able to complete. So before I decided to take this on, I thought I would run back and make sure that my boot campers were okay. So as you can see, I'm back in front of the barbed wire. Rich comes out perfectly fine, followed by Scott, Colleen's brother. And I'm not sure if anybody else can appreciate this, but as you can see, Colleen is actually bear crawling with her camera in her teeth. Now, if that isn't a hardcore boot camper, I don't know what is. But now, the hard part of the wall without the rope is not getting up, but it's getting down. So the smartest thing that you can do is make sure that when you get to the top, you allow people time to go past you or go around you, because you don't want to kick anybody in the face and you don't want to get kicked in the face. So before you try to scale down, just make sure that you have enough room. As you can see, Scott was making sure that there was enough room for me, and then you shouldn't have any problem getting down. As you can see, Colleen soon follows, and then Rich, who was making sure that Colleen was okay, then comes down after that. From there, we made our way over to the second wall. Now, the second wall is going to be the harder wall to climb because it's easier to slip. It's straight up. And with the rope, big mistake that a lot of people make is they keep their body too far from the wall. You want to have your body as close to the wall as possible. That way you're not anchoring as much weight on your arms. You can evenly distribute it between your feet and your arms, provided you have the grips on your sneakers. So like I said before, if there's any place where you're going to want to take your time, it's going to be at the top. There are going to be multiple people climbing at the same time, and the last thing that you want to do is kick somebody in the face or get kicked in the face as you're trying to transition over, as the biggest obstacle is usually getting around from one side to the other. So as you can see, Colleen got over, Scott stayed up on the opposite side to make sure she got down okay. Rich came down, and I just hung out there for a while, and then I got down myself. So I turned back around to the first wall, because I figured I would probably need to help some boot campers over, as I knew that everybody would want to get over at least one wall. And you still have one more boot camper to meet, and that is Mike. Remember the young lady over at the bus stop, Gloria GT, who I said you'd meet her husband? Here he is, and he's about to climb this wall. So Tracy makes it over, followed by GT and Mike, followed by a couple of random people who I've never met before. And now, if in case you want to spot somebody on the bottom of this wall, I'm going to show you how I spotted Mio Sotis.
Good. Get that leg over. Good. Now, drop your foot to the next beam and grab your hand with the lower beam that your foot is on. Now, put your foot on my hand. Foot on my hand. Yeah, now, I'm going to descend you down and grab that lower beam. Grab that lower one. Come down. Good. And let go. Yeah, you're 3 feet off the ground. Good.
Now the next wall I actually advise that a lot of people skip, but if they wanted to try it, I was there to help them. Always use your discretion. The next obstacle involved water, and I was a little bit concerned about this. The best bet that you can take is go to the end and ask somebody if their feet touch the floor, somebody whose height is comparable to yours. But essentially, I gave it a shot. There's going to be a rope next to you in case the water gets too low where you can pull yourself. You're going to go on top of the middle area, and then you can run out because the rest of the water is fairly shallow. We hit another stretch of running, at which point I got stung by a bee. But then you're going to come up to your next obstacle, which actually looks a lot more challenging than it really is. Once you find this hill, really all you have to do is get on the first step, and then the rest of it is gravy. From there, you're going to hit another stretch of running, where you will encounter a wooden ladder followed by a flat cargo net. Now, as you can see, I took the hard way. I tried to climb through the cargo net. What I come to find was an easier way to do it is to roll over the cargo net. You'll get through a lot quicker, especially if you're in the front. There won't be anybody to kick. Just roll as fast as you can. Right here you have the high cargo net. Get up, get over. It's pretty simple. From there, you have the fire jump. And finally, you're going to finish off with one last bear crawl under barbed wire. Once you get through that, basically, you're done.
All right, so that's it. All in all, I just want to thank, first of all, the people that came up with this whole Warrior Dash idea. I want to thank all the boot campers for trusting me to participate in the Warrior Dash, and I hope this video has allayed some of you people's concerns about doing it, because I think this is going to be a great experience for anybody that wants to try it. Of course, I would have liked to track my own time, but the satisfaction that I would have gotten from tracking my own time is far outweighed by the satisfaction I got from knowing that all of the boot campers finished, everybody was safe, and no one was hurt. So to all the boot campers, I just want to thank you, and apparently I guess we've done everything that we could possibly do in a mud run. Unless, of course, we